Welcome to Reach Out, the program that highlights the amazing work carried out by local nonprofits, the wonderful people who lead these organizations, and the committed volunteers who give themselves but wind up receiving even more. I'm Bernadette Wagner, Director of Volunteer Washington County, and I'm pleased to welcome David Bonebrake and Tasha Walls as my guests today. David is the Executive Director of Court-Appointed Special Advocates, also known as CASA, and Tasha is the organization's Volunteer Coordinator. CASA's mission is to seek timely placement of abused and neglected children in safe, permanent homes and to advocate for the highest quality care for these children while they are under the court's jurisdiction. On today's program, David and Tasha will tell us the services provided by CASA and the incredible need for volunteers to serve as advocates for these children. If you have a strong compassion for children in need, an innate sense of justice, and an intense desire to make a difference in our community, then you'll be glad you tuned in today's show. Welcome, David. Hi, Tasha. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Okay, so David, you were on the show probably over a year ago, and at that time your organization had a different structure. Can you tell us a little bit about the changes to court-appointed special advocates?
Thank
and
you.
Maybe while you're at it, clear up the difference between CASA and CASA.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
Well, effective July 1, after 8 very successful years whereby the Health Department, Washington County Health Department was the program administrator, effective July 1, the Court-Appointed Special Advocates Program did go independent 501c3 nonprofit in structure. We are now governed by a board of directors, and then we have since moved into the Aspiring to Serve building, office space, and that's where we're located now as our home office and address.
And your mission, is it still the same?
Still the same. Our mission is to recruit, screen, train, and then manage, direct, supervise the volunteers who serve as advocates for children of adjudicated cases of child abuse and neglect. I mean, the end goal is to speak out for child welfare, family welfare, and improve community welfare within Washington County.
Okay, and they are volunteer positions. Tasha, in your position as the volunteer coordinator, when you screen these volunteers, do they need to meet certain requirements? Do they need to do background checks? What is involved in becoming a volunteer advocate?
Becoming an advocate, I mean, first you would fill out the application process. You do need to be 21 years or older, free of any felony criminal charges, and free of any child abuse or neglect charges or findings. You need to continue or go through a 30-hour training. After that, once becoming a volunteer, you'd need to commit 1 year of volunteer service with the agency.
And where is this 30-hour training done, and is it done in blocks of time? How does that 30-hour, that's a lot of time.
It is.
A lot of training for
two separate types of training. One is online training, where most of the work would be done at home, and you'd have 3 face-to-face sessions. The other would be a 10-week in-class training where you would meet with either a volunteer coordinator or the program director to have face-to-face training every week for 10 consecutive weeks, 3 hours at a time.
Okay, great. David, what is the need in our community? How many cases of child abuse, neglect do you all see, and that you need to find placement for these kids?
Well, historically, Washington County has had a pretty high rate of child abuse per 1,000 children. Several years, well, over the last 10, 12 years, ranking anywhere from 2nd in the state of Maryland to 6th in the state of Maryland, again, as they compare 1,000 cases per 1,000 children. So raw numbers, of course, we don't match up with Baltimore City, some of the metro areas, but per 1,000, we have way too much child abuse going on.
Okay, and so does your office do any training to support parents so that maybe they're not in that position where they're stressed and then taking it out on their kids?
No, our program really doesn't do any of the preventive kind of programming. It's more of an interventive, but with the hopes that we would be preventing any subsequent child maltreatment or anything of that nature.
Okay, and Tasha, maybe you can tell us, what do the volunteers actually do?
The volunteers are appointed to 1 child at a time. Occasionally there's a 2 to 3 child sibling set, and they would work directly with the child, the foster parents, the caseworker with DSS, and the biological parents, as well as getting any court documentation. They would take all of that information and then report it back to the courts as to what would be in the best interest of the child.
Does that advocate also touch base with extended family members, maybe school teachers?
Yes. Each case is a little bit different and the circumstances are different. So depending on the case, there may be different people that need to play a role in our information gathering.
And are there certain skills that you look for your volunteers to have?
Really, I mean, we're looking for people that are comfortable talking to one another and talking to other people and gathering information. Our volunteers are from a wide variety. I mean, we have volunteers that work full-time, we have volunteers that are retired, so there isn't a specific skill set other than to be comfortable talking to
And
people.
how many volunteers are you working with right now?
Right now we have approximately 35 volunteers.
Okay, that's great. David, do you have any other staff in your organization right now?
We do have one other volunteer coordinator.
Okay.
So it is a staff of 3 persons.
Okay. And Tasha, what is the average length of service that a volunteer provides to your organization? Do they stay just for 1 year with that one child, or do you have volunteers that stay on?
The hope is that they would stay on. We
Well,
do
with that 30
require,
hours of training, you would hope?
yes, we do require after they go through training that they stay for at least a year, but the hope is that they do stay on, and typically they do. We have a lot of long-term volunteers with us that have worked many cases.
I'd like to extend my appreciation to David and Tasha for joining me here on Reach Out today, and also thank you, our viewing audience, for tuning in. I hope you found today's show informative and educational. It seems unfair, but there are children dealing with the court system whose only crime are being the victims of abuse and neglect. François Mauriac, a well-known French author and Nobel Prize laureate, once said, "Where does discipline end? Where does cruelty begin? Somewhere between these, thousands of children inhabit a voiceless hell." If you want to be the voice of children who have been abused, please contact CASA or check vwcmd.org. See you next time.